Hi everyone, Ron Trotter here, TC Computer Consulting. Tech tip number 4, very interesting topic today. Actually came up at a chamber event, and that is, why is my email not reliable, nearly reliable as it once was? Very good question, and we've got some extraordinarily good reasons. Reason number 1, email was never intended to do what it does today. The original protocol did not have a lot of the stuff that it does today in it, and instead of changing the original protocol, they just added on to it. So I'm personally amazed that this tower of protocols has not just snapped, fallen, and imploded at this point, but yet here we are. So let's start our history lessons with how machines used to talk to each other for communicating email. So you'd have your sender email server and your recipient email server. Now, they didn't know each other. So when this sender sent out something to Ron at tccube.com, it would say, "Hey, internet records, where would I send an email message to for tccube.com?" And it's going to return something called an MX record, and that thing's going to point to the actual server where my emails reside. They would talk to each other. There's a handshake that went on. There's acknowledgement of the recipient, and you would get a delivery receipt. Boom, boom, server to server, done. Let's fast forward to the advent of massive amount of spam. So the servers started putting another subcomponent on them, the mail servers, which was there to kind of detect spam and put it into spam folders. All right. Outlook also was doing this as well, but really, the servers is where a lot of the effort was concentrated in this arena, and they got pretty effective at it. But unfortunately, it was also an issue because they're mail servers, and they weren't really designed to rip apart emails and do heuristics on it to see whether or not it was spam. So a new layer was kind of invented, which is called the gateway, the email gateway. So instead of talking to another server, you would talk to another gateway. Then that gateway would make the determination of whether or not you're a spam. In the interim, they also cut off a lot of this handshaking that went on. They just wouldn't acknowledge if, for instance, a person didn't exist there, an email address didn't exist, because they didn't want people to build out the libraries and such that they were, in larger companies, to see if people were there or not. So what they did was they just acknowledged the email, even though it would just throw it out. So now you've got a false delivery confirmation at the other side. Let's fast forward into virus land. Virus started come through a lot of emails, much like malware does today, but it was simpler times. So they were able to open it up, look at the file, compare it to a signature, and say, "Oh, this is a virus. We're not going to pass it through." So it would throw it out. But they were pretty effective for a while until they started just basically changing the signatures constantly, which is where we're at today. Very few malware pieces that come through are identical. Um, and, as you can see, we're getting less and less guaranteed delivery here, more and more protection going in. And this rating system really started to pick up as they would rate who the sender was. So I'm TC Cube sending to another company. My server says, "Hey," and it's actually not even the server anymore because now the gateways are used to send the email. So it's not even the server, but the gateway says, "Hey, um, I'm going to send this over to another company, XYZ.com. XYZ gets their address, sends it over to their gateway. Their gateway says, "Oh, an email from tccube.com. Let me look at the internet records for them. Is this server that they're supposed to be sending from?" Now, provided I actually updated those records, it would be a yes or no question. If I don't have any information in those records, well, now we have a bit of a problem because it doesn't know how to grade this. Most of the gateways grade it by putting a big old fat um, addition of bad points to your score, so that the slightest thing now that comes through might trip it and might get blocked. So that would be like something like sending an invoice that says invoice, because it's a popular malware trick to get into the in through that gateway. So here we are, and we have non-guaranteed delivery, and we've got things that need to be updated. Now, there's three protocols right now that actually maintain this whole lookup and scoring thing. And one of them is pretty old and most people have implemented, but the other two are relatively new and they are very technically involved to set up correctly. So we're starting to see as things, as those records aren't updated out there, it's getting more and more difficult to actually send email out. And this also brings up another point. You never want to send bulk emails from your email. You want to use something like Constant Contact or MailChimp, because if you ever get put into a situation where you're on this blacklist or one of these rating engines where you're just going to get blocked all the time, that could be a real problem for you in your business. So you always want to use something like MailChimp or Constant Contact if you're sending out bulk email. The other thing to kind of link this together right now with phishing and why phishing is so prevalent is this, and it really tied some stuff together for some of the people at the meeting today, and that was, you're constantly getting bombarded with phishing emails that want your email credentials. And why in the world would they want your email credentials? Well, there's a whole list of reasons, and we'll cover them in other topics. But specifically relevant to this one is that if they can get credentials to a well-established and known and well-rated email account, they can probably slide 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, maybe even 1,000 emails over time through that account using that account's credentials. If they're able to compromise 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 accounts this way, guess what? They've got a way of actually penetrating all of these fancy doodads we've set up by using confiscated email credentials. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. And if you found this information valuable, please like and share it. And we're going to catch you on the very next Tech Tip.